Sorry about that. Okay. So anyway, our defense mechanisms are more meant to protect us. So when you talk about them, most of them are unaware of all of them. And what is the one that we are aware of? They're all unconscious except for one. Oh, there she is, Nicole. Nicole. Can you hear me, Nicole? Okay. Let's hope she'll chime in just a moment. If you can hear me, Nicole, whenever you're ready, just let me know. But there's one defense mechanism that is not unconscious, and that would be suppression. So you might see a question that says, oh, there she is, the star of the hour. Yay!
I am so sorry. I forgot.
Oh, you know what? When you had to be at the study group, you were here, but when you passed your test, you forgot all about us, right?
Charge it to my head and not my heart.
And for my new people, I just like to, and if you'll always pay it forward, I'm not asking you to ever share detailed questions of the test, but I always ask, A, is there something that I didn't cover? Because that's my job to make sure that I cover everything that's on the test. And B, tell us about the test. Tell us your steps and how it worked for you. So this is Nicole, and she is going to talk. You live in where? Where do you live?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, so share with us what it was like, if you don't mind.
The test was very easy after knowing the things that I needed to know to answer the test. It didn't do a lot of theories, didn't go into details about theories or anything like that, but that was my test. But there were a little bit more questions about the social systems theory.
Okay.
And
so words like entropy and negative entropy, or like how it worked together, like what?
Like a family system, but they didn't have the family system on there, family system theory. But they would give the theory, and then you would have to. Well, I had to compute. Okay, what it correlates with.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
And
so just knowing the terms, you had to really know the theory,
right?
Not just knowing the terms. Okay.
Right. Had to know the terms in order to get them, and I noticed that a lot of the questions that dealt with not empathy, but ethics, it was always consult the supervisor.
Oh, we don't consult always. When do we consult?
You consult when in this particular one that I remember, it was about gift. The lady had died and wanted her social worker to inherit something, and it was like 3 of the questions that was far-fetched. The only one was to consult the supervisor.
Okay. So as a rule, the only time you consult the supervisor is when there's something in the therapeutic relationship. So if there's something between you and the client, if you hate them, they hate you. And obviously there must have been something in the relationship there. The only other times usually is if you're new or you're a student. It'll say a young intern or new intern. Other than that, you are the best social worker in the entire world.
Right, absolutely. But one thing I did notice too is that I got this test versus all the other tests that I did was the answers that weren't right, they were very not right. It wasn't like a guess, well, maybe this could be, maybe this should be. It was very, very wrong. Like
how many tests have you taken?
I've taken it, this will be my 4th time.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that that's not the case, that perhaps you just knew what to look for this time.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. Because of you, Miss Pam, I mean, Dr. Turner,
I wasn't trying to get credit. That wasn't where it's going. I was just saying the test isn't that hard once you know what to look for.
Absolutely. I knew exactly what to look for. That's what it was. Uh, Absolutely. I knew exactly what to look for this time. And like a lot of the questions, like when there was a mold, medium, and average, or something like that on there. And I knew every time that question came up, it was the medium.
Girl, you asked the research questions too.
Yes. And that was another question you had. You had said every time you see this is the answer. The quasi.
Quasi, yes. So that question
Yes.
is when it comes to if you have to do a program evaluation, a
Right,
review of
right,
your
right.
program, it's always quasi. That's the only one that's ethical to use. You don't have to know any more about what a quasi does, just know it's quasi.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what it was on there. Of course, they gave a long, kind of scenario, but that was the ultimate, the quasi. And then other than that, it was a lot of ethical questions on there. The ethics that you would normally come to your mind first. It was questions regarding your relationship with your colleague and consultation.
What is consultation?
When you go to your colleague and ask for advice.
For fee.
Right.
For fee.
Well.
So that's why
Right.
most often, so if you're in private practice, you consult with somebody, and then if you call a consultant in, they're paid. So many times it's not the right answer because you're paying someone to come in. But if it is your financial piece or something, somebody looking in on the outside, they have to come in, and that would be a consultant. Yes. Good.
Right. The best advice concerning ethics was to read the ethics in its entirety, because there was a lot of questions on there that I wouldn't have known to or wasn't looking forward to, but I got right because I read the ethics and in its entirety. And if I can think of any more, definitely community organizing. Anything that you can think of that's going on right now, it was on there. Especially with community action. Now that one particular question was pretty tricky. It would talk about in the vignette the social workers doing action. The words were all action based, but it wasn't in the answer selection. So I had to go back up there and say, well, was she really doing social action? And she wasn't. She was doing social planning.
Yes.
Right. But that was tricky for me. Right.
But you went back and you looked and you proved it in the question.
Right.
Very good. Very good.
And so that was pretty much, if I would say, if you would get through the ethics and the community organizing and the and what put me over the top, I know it was those research questions.
And they weren't so bad, were they?
No, wasn't bad at all.
Even now when I say research, your eyes don't go your face is gonna crinkle up.
Right.
It's not so bad.
Not so bad. And it is so true. Assessment will always be your better bet with those questions.
Good.
Assessment.
Anything you saw that I didn't go over? Some word or some term that you're thinking, I have never heard of that.
Everything that was on my test, you went over. Everything that was on my test, you went over. And believe it or not, a lot of the questions that was on the ASWB practice exam was on my test.
There are only so many questions in the world. At some point, they just reuse them.
Absolutely.
There's how many questions can there be? The one thing you have to worry about, though, is because sometimes they'll reuse a question but ask it a little bit differently, and you think, oh, I know this test, I know this answer, and it's not the right one. So you gotta be careful about that one. But yeah,
right.
Very cool.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool.
Right. And another one, when it come down to abuse and neglect, it was good that I knew to go to the parent and ask what's wrong. You know, what's going on. You know, you don't automatically go to Child Protection Services.
He brought him here.
Because that was on there. Mm-hmm. But other than this was the easiest test I've ever taken. And that's because I knew what to look for.
The test is the same, baby. Yeah. They don't have an easy one for you. You just knew what to look for. Right. And when we first met, I told you, you had the content down pat. You knew the content. It wasn't not lack of knowledge. It was learning what they're looking for in the questions and how to go back and prove it in the question. Because you knew content back and forth.
Right. But the content alone did not help me on the other times. It was knowing what to look for. And I thank you so much for all that you did to help me. Thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. My pleasure. You guys have any questions for a real life person? I'll be honest with you. I haven't taken the test in like 30 years. Okay. All I know is what people tell me. So I try to do when you make sure that I'm on my game, then I think that makes me a better tutor. Because if I know what's on my game, if I know what I'm supposed to be teaching, if something's on there that I didn't discuss, I need to make sure that I cover it. So I really appreciate you giving us feedback. Now, what about groups? Did I lose you?
I didn't have any questions concerning groups, but we're working with a group, roll up a social worker. And so, I don't know if I got that right or not, but of course.
Say again, what was the question?
It was when working with an interdisciplinary group, you know, what is the role of a social worker?
Okay. And I lost you there. So just in general.
I remember the answer.
In general, when you're doing interdisciplinary, remember inter means more than one discipline throughout the nurse, the doctor, whatever. Many times you have to really focus on your code of ethics because not everyone comes from the same code of ethics that we do. And do remember, so if you're in a team and you know there's a treatment plan that you don't agree with, don't sign that because you're vicariously liable. So if everybody on the team agrees and you don't sign that or make a note that says you don't agree with that because you are liable if everyone on that team agreed and not everyone carries the code of ethics we carry. So that's an important one. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. And documentation. It was one scenario that talked about, the supervisor and the supervisee was in a meeting. Okay. And what is the next step? You know, and the only answer, all the other ones were outlandish out of the question, but the one that stuck out was document that make documentation, and I think we had went over that the day before the test. about how important documentation was.
If you don't document, it didn't happen. You know, that's the same in the real world that you do every day. That's the same thing we do in the test. Good, very good.
Right. And the reason why it stuck out, that particular question stuck out to me is because in my mind, in my social work mind, I want to do something other than document first. But there wasn't anything that in the question answer set that allowed me to do anything but document.
Very good.
If that make any sense to y'all. But and I want to say the most important thing too was knowing that, you know, I had that information. I knew it. I finished school. You know, I didn't finish school with the best grades, but I finished school. I finished social work, and I knew this stuff. It wasn't Spanish to me because I don't know Spanish. You know, it was stuff that I had studied, and so with Dr. Turner telling me that, you know, I had this, you know, that meant the world. You know, I walked in there with confidence, knowing that I had the content. I knew what to do.
I didn't give you that degree, girl. You earned it. I did not give you it. You
That's
earned
right.
it. All I had to do was kind of, you know, the way they need to answer the questions, but I didn't give you any knowledge. I just helped you look at how to answer the question. So
Right.
I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
You guys want to ask
And
for any questions?
any questions?
Hi, how many do you need to get correct?
From what I've seen on Facebook with the people who are passing, and the one that I had to get right was only like 99. And a lot of people are having to, the number right now is 99. But you know, every state is different.
So the way it works is we have several different versions. Remember, that's called parallel forms. So there are several different versions. They all measure the same thing. The lower the number that you need, the more verbiage. The longer the vignettes are, the more words that are in there if it's the lower score. The higher score, there are less words. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Well, I had a lot of words too.
You did. And because you said before, what you said earlier is one of those vignettes had like a lot of stuff before it even got to the code of ethics.
Right,
So those are, when there's a lot of reading, that's when the score is lower. The assumption is because there's so much more reading in those that it takes more time. So that's why the score is lower on those. So that's kind of, and those of you who think there's some kind of magic to it, there's really not. It's like bingo. They kind of like flip the balls and you get what you get. You really do. There's no kind of like, oh, I missed this one. Now I'm going to get this one, blah, blah, blah. So there's no magic. I wish there was. There's not. Mm-hmm. Now, did you fly questions?
No, I just figured if I got it, I got it. I normally fall asleep doing those tests because it's so quiet. So I just kept on going. You know, I answered it and I kept on going. And I just pressed submit. And so I couldn't go back because I was like 2 seconds away from saying it's over already. So
yes. Did you do the hallelujah, thank you, Jesus dance when it popped up?
That's right. What helped me too to stay awake was I took one of those caffeine pills. Mm-hmm. And so, because it was so quiet, I have ADHD, and so I had to keep moving.
That's a good idea. Thank you. That's a good idea. I recommend that because a lot of my students, a lot of us in general, ADD, ADHD, and that I forget. So I was, recommend see your doctor and take her and go and get a shot for like Ritalin or something, or a script. That those caffeine pills work just as well. I didn't think about that. Thanks for sharing that. Mm-hmm. Supposedly it keeps you focused and all that good stuff.
That's right. It did. It helped me. It helped me a lot. And I don't think I ate anything, so I wasn't fighting having to be full and take the test,
Or go to the bathroom.
Or go to the bathroom, right? Because I sure enough would have failed if I had to go to the bathroom.
Okay, other people?
Anybody?
How about, were there many questions on like Erickson or Piaget, or they usually have a couple?
I didn't have any theory questions other than social, man, I just said it, social systems theory.
Okay.
So I'm going to disagree with that. So what I usually find is it doesn't say according to Piaget, but it'll ask you a question about human development. And then many times it's one of those things that you just don't realize who it belongs to.
Right.
So they won't say according to Piaget, but they might say a child at this age is doing this. And then based on those answers, it's usually one of those theorists.
Right. And I would say that the only question I got was a teenager is how did you say it? A teenager is exhibiting isolation and what is it, major depression, is it development is it normal development something, or is it the family problems? Well, I knew it wasn't family problems because they didn't say anything about family problems in the vignette. And they had a lot of stuff in that vignette, but they didn't say nothing about family problems. Was it drugs?
So let me understand. When you read the answers, you went back to the vignette and you checked to see for the words?
I sure did.
Yes.
And it didn't say that the teenager was on drugs, but I know a lot of teenagers are on drugs now, but
if it don't say in the question,
it didn't
don't be
say
bringing stuff in. Don't be bringing stuff in.
That's right. And so the only one was, normal development. And that I got that from Eric Erickson, that, yeah. It was just, I had to know that in order to answer the question.
Yeah.
Now, how about medications? Anything on those? Just recalls?
I had one question regarding medication, and it was a psychotic medication.
Okay.
Just one.
And how about types of testing?
Repeat that for me.
Oh, types of testing.
Like personality testing?
Yeah.
Yes, there was one question on how do you what do you test for a depression? What type of test?
What scale would you use? Yeah.
Bex.
Yep. Bex. Yeah. BDI. Bex Depression Inventory. Yes. Very good. Right. Remember, Beck is the author of CBT, so he's got an anxiety inventory too.
Oh. CBT was on there. Yeah. CBT was on there, right?
How about that? The crisis intervention. Some of those steps. Any of those?
Yes, crisis intervention. Just one question regarding crisis intervention was on there, and it was the one answer that summed up right. And I remember, I will never see this client at crisis intervention. In the vignette said, sister is in a crisis. She has to do this. And what should the social worker do first? And I put check for safety.
Yes. That's that first one. That's that first level. Yes.
Check for safety. Yeah. and but I had to keep in mind because it was like develop a relationship, develop rapport, you know,
Not first.
find out a family history.
Not first. We wouldn't even do that in crisis. We don't care about the family history in crisis.
Right. And so I was able to get that from me saying they didn't really go into detail what question I got right or wrong. But that's what I answered, check for safety.
That's right.
And lots and lots of ethics. I was surprised to see that there was a lot of questions about having sex with your co-worker.
Can you?
You know, what type of boundaries to have. There was a lot of questions.
Can you have sex with your coworker?
Boundaries, you know, having sex with.
Can you have sex with your coworker? Yes or no?
According to the ethics, is you can't. No.
It doesn't say that.
I might have got that wrong.
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. You can't harass your coworker. So if you're in a position of power, so if you're the supervisor and and someone's below you, so if you're like it's an intern or your supervisor, then you cannot. But coworker to coworker, if you're both mutual adults, that's not a problem. The Code of Ethics doesn't say we can't do that. I don't think you should, right. But that's just my opinion. But the Code of Ethics doesn't say we can't.
Right. So I was surprised to see a lot of those questions. I was thinking more like questions that I've gotten in the past were about the client come first and stuff like that. But this was mainly co-worker, supervisee, supervisor behavior.
When did you start this journey?
Say it again.
When did you start this journey toward licensure?
Oh, wow. In 2015. So it's been a while.
And you're done.
That's right. I did have to take in account that each time that I took the test, I was in a very stressful part of my life. My mom had passed when I had taken my last exam. The exam before that, I was required to take it in order to get my degree from my school. And then another time I took it, my daughter's father had killed himself. And so,
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
And so I wasn't able to focus, even though my score was very high. I still didn't pass it. And so this time, I have been going through some health issues, some physical health issues. But I waited. I asked Dr. Pam, should just reschedule. She gave me some great advice. Yeah, reschedule. And so I just waited until things calmed down in my life. And everybody got me, but I was able to focus with, and I'm glad about that. Because when I took the test before, hundreds of things would come to my mind when I would take it. I'll be reading a vignette and then some pop in my mind about what didn't happen, a reason why this happened. I was never able to focus.
I am proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Anything else, guys?
Nicole?
Oh,
my name is Rosa, and I want to congratulate you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
I will be testing again for a second time. I missed by maybe 5. And I was thinking of not going back. And you have just inspired me to keep going. Okay.
That's
All right.
great. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your.
Rosa, that's not an option. That's not an option. I will call you and haunt you.
That's right. That's right. We gotta hold each other up.
I believe she would haunt me.
I would. Don't worry. I would. You ask around. I will. Did you have another question? Anybody? That was
I
Sheena.
had another
Hold on,
question.
Sheena. Hold on, Sheena.
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead with me.
sorry.
Okay.
You're muted, Sheena. Hold on. Unmute yourself, babe.
Okay.
I would love to take that $15 an hour, but it was a little too far for me. And my wife, we have one car, and my wife, she's probably gonna take me there. Okay, well,
Sheena, you're still muted, babe. It's not me. It's you.
and
All right. She probably talking away.
Mm-mm. Her lips aren't moving.
hello, you talking to me, babe?
Sorry, Helen. Sorry. Let me get out of there. You hear me? Am I unmuted now? Linda, did you have a question? Do you hear me now?